Good morning. Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation podcast live this morning, guys. We are live on a Wednesday morning, bringing you all the latest on Rangers FC and also what happened last night as well. Let's talk about last night, shall we? As well, we'll talk a little bit about the internationals last night. We'll talk about a little bit about the international duty. You are very, very welcome. Obviously here today, all views and opinions greatly received, guys. No worry about life bans here. No worry about getting kicked out or any other sorts of things as regards that this morning, guys. So please, obviously, get involved. Get involved with the channel. Get your thoughts, your comments coming in to the channel this morning. It'd be great to have you here, and great to have you involved with the channel this morning. A little bit of a poll running this morning as well, just to kind of a little bit of a feeling. I just want to see what the thoughts are. I mean, I'm not going to particularly talk about this morning. We will talk about this at some point. Is James Tavernier a Rangers legend in the same bracket as Jardine, Johnston, Gregg, Laudrup and McCoist? That's a question for you guys. Get your thoughts in on that one. Tamsin says, absolutely no way is Tav a legend. A good servant, yes. A decent player in the past, yes. But no, to say he's a legend demeans the term legend. 3 trophies in 13 years, not a captain, not a leader, not a legend. If you say he's a legend, you clearly don't understand the term legend. Interesting. Let's have a little chat, shall we, about obviously what happened last night. We'll talk a bit about the international, talk about Cheney and Hamza. We're also going to have a little start to look ahead, obviously, to the game at the weekend. A 5:30 kickoff on a Saturday evening at Dens Park. I've got to say, I've seen some really sloppy reporting from a number of publications, including the Daily Rebel, the Daily Rat Bag, the Daily Rat, the Daily Record, as it's alternatively known, talking about the fact that the game's at Ibrox. Well, no, it's not at Ibrox, is it? It's at Dens Park. You know, I think that shows the standard of journalism from the Daily Record, doesn't it? That they can't even get the venue for the game right. They don't know where the game's going to take place. They don't know what the situation is with the game. You know, the game is taking place at Dens Park. That is where the game happens. So, look, guys, they clearly. They clearly don't have a absolute Scooby-Doo, do they, of what is going on with the games this weekend. Obviously, a reminder, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, remember this is a daily free Rangers news channel. We don't charge you for the content. We don't hide our content behind paywalls. We don't expect you to pay for it. Obviously, if you do want to support the channel, you can become a member for 99p, or alternatively as well, you can press on the super chat or super sticker button and donate some money to support the channel. We do have a goal going this morning. So please obviously get that in. Right, guys, look, let's talk about the international duty. We'll talk about international duty first of all. We'll talk about Václav Černý. Václav Černý played last night, his second appearance for for Czechia, or the Czech Republic, as it's alternatively known. Tav has been a good servant to our club and is deservedly in the Hall of Fame, but there is a tier system, and the true greats is that he isn't on that for me. I think you're right there, singing the blues. I think, if you look at the legendary status, you're looking at Jardine, you're looking at Gregg, you're looking at Willie Johnston, you're looking at Colin Steen, you're looking at Brian Laudrup, Paul Gascoigne, Ali McCoist. They are the top tier legends. Richard Gough, Terry Butcher. At this club, he certainly isn't in the same bracket as those guys. No, but like I said, we'll have more of a discussion. I'm going to put a podcast together for that later on. I just wanted to get a bit of a feeling for that this morning. So yeah, 7% of you say he is a legend. Fair enough. If you think he's a legend, he's a legend. I don't put my personal opinion on that. If you want it, is that he's not a legend. I don't think you really understand the term legend. I think if you deem him a legend, he isn't. CGNI says Černý ran the show last night, even though it was Gibraltar. Yeah, I mean, look, I suppose the situation is, realistically, I suppose CGNI, that playing against Gibraltar is a bit like playing against St Johnstone or playing against Ross County or playing against St Mirren to some degree. I think, there's probably very little difference in ability between St Johnstone, St Mirren, Ross County and Gibraltar, isn't there? So there we go. But anyway, let's start off with a little bit of a chat about Václav Černý. I don't know if you've seen his goal yet, guys. If you haven't seen his goal, try and find it somewhere on social media. he is quality. He is absolutely, it's a quality goal. I mean, it really is. It's a classic Tierney goal, a hit from distance, smashes it past the keeper, scores a brilliant goal yet again. And I know he's not our player, and they always say, you know, they always say, don't they, that you should never fall in love with a lone player because the moment you do, he's going to leave. Obviously we've had that experience in the past. We've lost Malik Tillman, who is. I mean, Malik Tillman is just absolute first class. I mean, if you haven't seen him play for PSV this season, he's been brilliant, absolutely brilliant over there. Already attracting attention from bigger clubs than PSV. So, he's a very good footballer. Abdallah Sima, again, has done well when he's been fit this season for Brest. Still find that name utterly hilarious, calling a football team Brest. I don't know if any of you seen the CBS clip on TikTok or on some of the social media bits about where they tell Michael Richards he can't talk about the team Brest, and then basically Kate and Thierry and Jamie Carragher just then seem to make as many innuendo jokes about Brest as possible. It's absolutely hilarious. If you haven't seen that, check it out. But back to Václav Černý. There were some interesting Arjen Robben comparisons made with his performance last night for the Czech Republic. Even his coach for the Czech Republic has branded him the Czech Robben. Obviously, I don't know, those of you who are familiar with Arjen Robben, ex-Chelsea, ex-Bayern Munich, ex-Netherlands international. The guy was absolutely unbelievable, wasn't he? He was absolutely fantastic. As a player, he was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. He was a phenomenal player, Arjen Robben. I mean, he was certainly one of the players when I was younger and growing up, and I wasn't that much younger, but he was a player that got you off your seat. He was an exciting player. He played very much like Tierney, cut in from the right hand side onto his left foot. He was part of that great Chelsea team that Mourinho had, where he had Damien Duff on one wing and Arjen Robben on the other wing, and Didier Drogba through the middle. It was certainly a fearsome attacking three. But in terms of Černý, his boss really did hail his impact last night. He talked about how well he played. He talked about the impact that he'd had. Černý was subbed off in the 79th minute, and apparently was not happy at all at being subbed off. Apparently he did have a bit of a strop about it, but apparently apologised later to his coach about it. Now, this is obviously not the first time this has happened. Obviously, you look back to the game against Fenerbahce where we were about to take him off, and he kind of refused to come off, and Danilo had a little bit of a temper tantrum in the dugout because Danilo was going to go on for Černý, and he didn't, obviously. Černý obviously loves being on the pitch. He loves getting involved in the game. He doesn't shirk responsibility. He's a player that just wants to play football, and you've got to admire him for that. He's a top level lad. But like I said, he played really, really well last night. His performance was absolutely excellent. And I know, look, I understand you've got to kind of put to use the John Bennett word, the caveat on it, that it's only Gibraltar. But, you can only play against what's put in front of you, and you can only play what is in front of you, so there we go. Isn't it great that when we loan players in, their value goes up, but when we loan players out, we get mugged off trying to sell them? I mean, that's very true, isn't it, CJ and I? Absolutely. I think CJ, that hopefully will change now that Niels Koppen is in charge of transfer policy. I think that was perhaps down to the board, down to Ross Wilson, down to managers not maximising the value of our players, and also some of our players just genuinely being shit. I think that's probably the situation. But hopefully, Niels Koppen can work on getting good deals for Matondo, for Dowell, for Davis, for Sifu, and bringing a bit of money over the summer. I mean, that's obviously got to be the hope. Now, Václav Černý was, of course, man of the match last night for the Czech Republic against Gibraltar in their 4-0 win. Ivan Hasek, who is the Czechia manager, spoke about Václav Černý post-match and was glowing in his praise for the Rangers loan player. He said, "I think he deserved it because he is a player who makes a difference in closed defences. I'm just sorry that we don't have more players like that in the Czech Republic. If you look at France, they have about 8. We have 1 or 2 like that." I mean, that's pretty true, isn't it? I mean, he is a player who can go on. He can beat a man. He can play a killer pass. He can take a shot. And I think, one of the things that's kind of really useful with that is, when we play in Scotland, in the domestic game, we come up against those closed defences quite a lot, as Hasek puts it. The low block, as I think is the exact terminology we should be using for that one. And Hasek is right. I think he is a player who can, really break that low block down with his skill, with his talent, with his ability to drift in, drift out. He's a top level player. So, very positive there. He went on to say about the substitution, he was sour for 2 minutes, but then he apologised. That's just the way he is. He's an emotional player. And like I said, he is. He wants to do his best. He wants to stay on the park, doesn't he? He wants to be the best possible player that he can be. And he doesn't, like most footballers, any real footballer doesn't want to sit on the bench. No real footballer, is happy at being sat on the bench, is he? That's not what a real footballer wants to do. No footballer just wants to sit there and kind of accept his wages, does he? And kind of not play. That's not a proper footballer. Hasek went on to say, I watched them play with Rangers against Fenerbahce at half-time of extra time. They had already announced on TV that they were going to substitute him. He was getting a message next door, found out and returned to the field. Nobody understood that he didn't substitute. That's just how Tierney is. He doesn't want to leave the field. What was worse was that several players didn't want to either. But look, I think he is a top-level talent. He is a very, very good footballer. And, for me, I honestly hope that we can keep hold of him going forward. I honestly hope that he is a player that we can secure on a long-term deal. Now, I think, personally speaking, there would have been a situation where, had we obviously not had this takeover in the pipeline, that I honestly believe that we wouldn't have been able to afford him, that he would have walked for nothing. He would have walked in the summer. He'd gone back to Wolfsburg. They'd have got like 8-9 million for him, and he would have been well out of our price range. But I don't honestly believe that we are now in that bracket. I think we've got a situation where we will be able to afford him. There's already talk and discussions that Rangers are looking at securing Václav Černý on a permanent basis. There's already talk that that there is a desire there to actually get him and keep him. There's people reporting, and there's a number of very, I would say, reliable sources reporting that we've already kind of opened negotiations with Wolfsburg over him. So, look, personally speaking, I hope we hang on to Václav. I think he's a very good footballer. I think he's a very talented footballer. You've only got to look at his stats this season. He's performed outstandingly well for us this season. He's contributed massively, to the team this season and in what he's done. And if you consider this guy's playing out wide, you look at his stats this season. Premiership, 27 games, 11 goals, 2 assists, 13 goal contributions in 27 games. That's just under 1 in 2 from the wing. Europa League. His Europa League stats, guys, are absolutely fabulous. 10 games, 6 goals, 2 assists. That's 8 goal contributions in 10 in the Europa League, which is a different level of competition. Scottish League Cup, 4 appearances, 2 assists. Champions League, 2 matches, 1 assist. So this year he's got 17, 6, 7, 24 goal contributions this season. He's contributed to 24 of our goals this season in 37, 41, 43 games. He's got a very, very good record, and he's a player who makes a difference. And I think, I don't know if you would agree with this, but he's the one player to me that, when he goes through on goal, I've got massive confidence he's going to put the ball in the back of the net. I really do believe that Václav, 9 times out of 10, if you put him through 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper, he's going to slot it home, and you can rely on him to put the ball in the back of the net. So for me, that performance last night from the Czech Republic is just kind of a reflection of where he is as a footballer. I think he's absolutely brilliant. I think he is really good, and I really, really hope that we secure him on that permanent deal in the summer. And I think there's a real chance that happens now with the 49ers and Andrew Kavanagh putting money into the club, guys. Let me know your thoughts on that one. Be great to get your thoughts on that one. In fact, let's run a little bit of a poll. Start a poll. Do Rangers keep hold of Václav Černý for next season? Okay, so if you believe they will, obviously vote yes. If you believe we won't, vote no. And that's the poll, guys. It's up and running now in the live chat, so please obviously get your votes in on that one. Right, look, let's move on. Hamza, Hamza obviously is away with Morocco. Hamza didn't play last night. He didn't come on for Morocco in their 2-0 victory over Tanzania. But, whatever you think about international football, and look, my opinions on international football. I think it's a waste of time. I think it's boring. I think it's just sending your players off to get injured. It's a risk, that you take with the players. They go off, they compete for their countries, which, I know means something to them. But, it's your player at the end of the day you're sending out there that's going to possibly get injured and then come back to your club and you can't use him. So you kind of look there and say, well, look, Hamza got on the other day. He's made his international debut now, which obviously will help with his value. The moment like I said the other day, if you've got an international footballer on your books, he's played international football for his country, then you've got a few million to add to his price tag. It naturally does that, doesn't it? An international is worth a little bit more cash. But the other thing you've got to kind of take from this, and I think this is a positive we need to look at, is I honestly think that we've got to look at this in terms of the fact that, to be honest with you, Hamza gains a lot from going away. He's still a young player. He's still developing. He's still getting better. He's still improving as a player. And, as a player, he is learning all the time. Now, if you consider that when he goes off to play for Morocco, and as I said the other day, Morocco are a very good international outfit these days. They're not a two-bob international outfit that get rolled over quite easily when they come up against France and Spain and Germany and Holland and England and so on and so forth. There's some good footballers in that Moroccan side. Now, what you've got to kind of work on the basis of, he's going to be there in training every day, and he's going to be learning from the likes of Brahim Diaz, from Al Nassr, from Amrabat, from Hakimi, from Sabari, from Sangare. There's some quality players. There's some absolute top-level world talent in that Moroccan squad. And one of the things for me that's going to really benefit Hamza going forward is playing with those guys, is learning from those guys, is watching Brahim Diaz, Real Madrid player, is absolute quality player. Nassr, who's the Fenerbahce striker, good striker. Sofian Amrabat, again, another top player. Hakimi, very good player. Sangare, Sabari, they're both very talented footballers. And, these are guys that Hamza is going to learn from and he's going to pick up stuff from. So for me, looking at this situation, Hamza can only get better. Hamza can only do better from this. And it's good experience for him, and it's good experience for Rangers. And, it's good experience for him to kind of learn from and develop. So all very positive for me. With Hamza and been away with the Moroccan national team. The hope is now obviously that he comes back, that he's fit, he's raring to go for Saturday's game against Dundee. That's the big one, isn't it now? I think we're kind of breaking out of this international break finally. It's finally over. I don't know about you, but it just seems to me to have just gone on forever. It really does seem to have absolutely gone on for absolute ever, this international break. It feels like a month, never mind a couple of weeks or a week and a bit. It genuinely feels like we've been in this international break and stuck in this international break for well over a month now. It's absolutely crazy times. But, we're out of it now. And the players will now start coming back to the club. It's obviously now down to Barry and the boys to get stuck into them, to get them going, to get them ready for this game on Saturday in 5:30 kickoff. I suppose that the benefit for that is that with the game being a bit later on Saturday, it gives Barry a bit more time to get the players back, to have a look at the players, to assess the players, to see where we're up to with them, and assess fitness, assess ability to play on Saturday. And you've got to kind of hope that these guys are all going to come back. There's going to be no niggles, no knocks, and they're going to be ready to go again. And look, I know the league's over. I get that the league's over, and I get that realistically, there's nothing left to play for domestically. But, it's about now for these players, I believe, getting the performances in, showing that they're sharp still, that they want to go still, they're ready to play still, and there's things still to play for the players. If you look at the players, for me, you look at them and they're obviously playing for places for next season. There's players here that will have to, realistically show that they are, ready to go, that they want to stay here. They want to be Rangers players, and that's the first one. You know, they need to show that that they're ready to be Rangers players and that they want to stay at the club, and that's one thing for me that I want to start seeing from these players going forward. The other thing, of course, is that I want to start seeing from them as well is that, you know, they need to start competing, obviously, for Europa League places. That's another thing they're competing for. You know, if they want to show that they are worthy of playing in the Europa League, that they want Europa League they want to continue to play Europa League football next season, then, sorry, not next season, this season, for the rest of this season, they want to be in the Bilbao. They want to be in the Bilbao tie. They want an opportunity to play in that Bilbao tie. Then this is the time for them to really kick on and show that they are worthy of that place in the team. And look, it's a great opportunity, isn't it, for these players to really prove that they are top level players that can cope at this level and can do it. Now, look, is this game this weekend going to be easy? No, of course it isn't going to be easy. Of course it's not going to be easy because, you know, Dundee are coming off the back of winning the Ding Dong Dundee derby. They're going to want to go out there and they're going to want to show that they are a top team. They're going to want to show that they're going to make things as difficult as possible for Rangers. They're still scrapping. They're still fighting for 4 points. So for me, it's not going to be the easy tie, I think, that a lot of people expect it to be. Bluebell says, couldn't lace Jardine's boots, in reference to the Tav question earlier. Look, you know, this game this weekend, you look at it and you kind of say, well, Dundee are coming off the back of a pretty good result against Dundee United pre-international break. And like I said, their confidence is going to be sky high. And our record at Dens Park is not great, to be honest with you, in the last few games. Now, you look at the majority of times, and I know we talk about our away form this season not being great, but you know, if you look back at Rangers games against Hearts at Tynecastle, Hibs at Easter Road, St Johnstone at Diarmid Park, you know, against St Mirren, against, on the whole, our record's pretty good against most of those teams. We win more than we lose and draw against them, you know. Our record's pretty decent against them. But our record against Dundee at Dens Park is not too clever, actually. The last 10 games at Dens Park, we've played 10, we've won 5, lost 2, drawn 3. So our win percentage at Dens Park is only 50%, which is massively under what Rangers' normal win percentage is away from home against the rest of the teams in Scotland. So 50% against Dundee is actually quite low. You know, if you look at it from that aspect, you know, 2 defeats, 3 draws against them is not great. You know, it isn't particularly brilliant for me. I mean, if you look at the last couple of games against them at Dens Park, if you go back, so we go back obviously to the one earlier this season on the 9th of January, that was a 1-1 at Dens Park, a 1-1 draw with them. That was on match day 11. That was at 8 o'clock evening kickoff, that game, if you remember that game back then. The goals was Adewumi scored for them and Václav Černý equalised for us. The Rangers team on that game was, it was pretty decent, to be honest with you. Kelly in goal, Yilmaz, Proper, and Ciala, Jefte, Diamonde, Barron, Černý, Bayrami, Hadji, and Igaman. Obviously, that was when Clement was still manager. So that was a 1-1. Prior to that, then, you know, there was, if you go back to the 17th of April last year, it was a 0-0 against them. That was the one that basically cost us the league, if you remember. I mean, we were kind of falling a little bit then and falling apart a little bit before then, but that was a 0-0 at Dens Park. That was again an evening kickoff, a 0-0 at Dens Park. A very, very poor performance that day, despite the very weird ass comments from Clement post-game. I don't know if you remember them, when he talked about us being one of our best performances of the season, yet the rest of us that had watched that game thought we were absolutely shite that day. Prior to that, we won 5-0 there. Obviously, I don't know if you remember that game, that 5-0 victory. That was back on the 11th of January 2023. I remember listening to that game in the radio in the car. that night. Goals that night for Rangers. Ryan Jack, Danilo, Lammers, Dessers and Tav scored that night. Danilo scored, Dessers scored. Sam Lammers even got a goal. I remember that night. Lammers played in the 10 role and absolutely... he looked really good that night, didn't he? He actually played really, really well that night. And I think a lot of us thought this was the new beginning of Sam Lammers. But no, it wasn't, obviously. Prior to that, there was a 2-1 to Rangers, a 3-0 to Rangers, a 1-0 to Rangers, a 1-1 back in 2018. The last time we lost at Dens Park was on the 24th of November 2017. We lost 2-1 to them. Kevin Clancy was the referee that day. What a surprise. The Rangers team that lost that game that day was Fotheringham in goal, Tav, McCrory, Wilson and John as the back four. Midfield four was Candeas, Holt, Jack and Miller. And Windass and Morelos up front. That was a pretty shit team, wasn't it? Goals that day, Mark O'Hara scored for them. Josh Windass equalised for us. And then Mark O'Hara got the winner in the 80th minute. So you've got to go back, like I said, 2017 for the last time we lost to them. Prior to that, we also lost to them again that year in February 2017. We lost 2-1 to them that day as well. A very weak Rangers team that day. Fotheringham in goal, Tavernier, Kiernan, Hill, Hodgson, Halliday, Hindman, Waghorn, Miller, Mackay and Garner up front. Poor team that day. Manager was Graham Murty on that occasion. I mean, there you go. It says everything you need to know. So 2-1 that day. But prior to that, again, a pretty decent record. I mean, those of you who remember back to 2000, 27th of February 2000, a 7-1 win. That would be nice, wouldn't it? A 7-1 win over them. What was the Rangers team who scored for Rangers that day? Rod Wallace, Tony Vidmar, Rod Wallace. Rod Wallace got a hat-trick that day. Jorg Alberts, Seb Rosenthal, Stephen Tweed. There's some blasts from the past for those of you who remember that. But look, our record against them, it hasn't been great, has it? Hasn't been great. We do need to improve that massively on Saturday, starting Saturday against them. And I think we do need to start to get a consistency of performance against them. We really, really do. And we do need to pick it up. We can't afford, to lose this game at all. CJ, morning, buddy. How you doing? Mark Dowie says, problem with Rangers, they're not consistent enough. Players not suited for the rough away park. Yeah, I mean, I think to be honest with you, Mark, you've got a great point there. I think, one of the things for me this season has been we've looked great in Europe. We've looked fantastic in Europe. And I think the team is set up to play in Europe. What we need to do this summer, I think, when we sign players, is we need to look at it in terms of, bringing in players that can handle the rough and tough of the SPL, players that are used to to British football. And I think, obviously, Lyall Cameron is a good start with that one. Obviously, he's a guy who gets the SPL. He's played in the SPL. He knows what the league's like. He understands the expectation for Rangers. So, for me, I think, we do need to bring in some players who get the grit, the determination, the battle and the fight of playing against these hammer throwers. JN says, damn, forgot about this live stream. Good evening, all bears from Thailand. Good evening, JN. Hope all is good in Thailand. Thailand, never been. People, okay. Mark Dowie says, Rangers ruined. What did they ruin? What did we ruin? What did Rangers ruin? Rangers ruined Lammers playing him out of position, and the training staff didn't spend time with him on the training ground. Yeah, I mean, that's one, isn't it, mate? I think, you look at Sam Lammers and you look at his record this season in Holland, and you kind of think it's a what-if situation, What if he'd been played in his rightful position? What if he'd been played up front? Would he have been a better player? I mean, he's done all right this season. 7 goals in 21 in the Eredivisie, 2 goals in the Europa League. So he's scored 9 goals this season. I think the thing with that one, though, is, Mark, that if you look at Sam Lammers' record, apart from the Eredivisie, he's never, ever done that well anywhere else. He didn't do well in Germany with Eintracht. He didn't do well in Italy with Sampdoria and Atalanta. He's always done well in the Eredivisie. He's never really done well anywhere elsewhere. I think we're seeing a bit of that with Robin Proper to some degree as well. So I think there's a bit of an element of that. I mean, I honestly don't believe that if we had played Lammers up front, we would have got a regular goal-scoring player out of him. I just don't think he's suited to anything other than Dutch football. Like I said, his track record doesn't show that anyway, and that's just his track record. Bluebell says, brutal hearing those teams, some proper shocking names we had. Mate, it was a long, I mean, to quote the Stuart Hay play, it was a long journey back, wasn't it? And we did have some brutal players and some brutal teams in the past that, somehow managed to get us back to where we are today. To rebuild the club, and I think we've just got to be thankful that we don't have that anymore. And I think maybe some of us need to be a little bit more grateful for the players we have got now. That the players we have got now are night and day to those players. I mean, the Václav Černí's, Connor Barron's, Nicholas Raskins, Mohamed Diamondes of this world are night and day to those players, aren't they? What else have we got? Thailand would blow your mind. I've never been, mate. Never been. Seriously, best place in the world to learn about life for me, says JN. Bluebell says, I'm sorry, Lammers was brutal. I can't make excuses for him. He's doing well back home. Sometimes that's just where a player belongs. I mean, yeah, I think you're right. That Lammers was a player who, like I said, his track record doesn't show him doing good anywhere other than in the Eredivisie. So, look, yeah, I mean, look, I get the point with Fabio Silva, that we may have seen a better Fabio Silva had he been played up top or had he been played in the 10 role rather than being stuck out on the wing. I get the whole, that Clement kind of ruined a lot of players by playing them out of position. He damaged their confidence. He damaged the way they played. I mean, he certainly destroyed Todd Cantwell. He destroyed Fabio Silva. I think he's got a lot to answer for, certainly. But on the whole, you look at it and you kind of say, with Lammers, I don't think it would have worked even if we played him through the middle. I just don't think he was suited to Scottish football at all. I mean, he might have been okay in Europe, don't get me wrong, because, the European, just like Robin Propper. I mean, you look at Robin Propper, and it's two different players. You look at Robin Propper in the SPL, and he looks an absolute bomb scare. You look at him in Europe, he doesn't look too bad. I mean, the same to some degree with Ben Davies. Ben Davies always looked all right in Europe. Didn't look too great in the SPL, did he? So, I think some players are just not suited to Scottish football, and I don't think Sam Lammers ever was suited to Scottish football, was he? And I think Clement kind of, I said, Clement has ruined players, but I don't think you can pin Sam Lammers on him as much as we may want to blame Clement for everything this season and last season. I don't think you can pin Lammers solely on Clement for that. But look, I think moving forward, we've got a decent core to this squad. We've just got to sort of build this squad up and kind of change and move forward with it. And like we said on the podcast last night, add to it. Bluebell says PC was obsessed with playing inverted wingers and ruined just about every natural 10 we had at his disposal by sticking them on the wings. And I think maybe we're kind of reaping a bit of that with Bayrami. You look at Bayrami at Empoli, and Bayrami in Italy playing in the 10 role actually played really, really well there. Yet he's come to Rangers. Straight away, he's been stuck out on the wing, and he's not a winger. He hasn't played well on the wing. It's damaged his confidence. He now looks like a passenger. He doesn't play well. It is what it is. All I say, he's gutted about Clement, thought he would take us forward. I think, mate, we all did. I mean, when he first came in, there was that bounce. There was a position when we were top of the league. It looked like we were going to go on and win the league last season, and then it all fell apart. I think we were all hopeful that Clement would change things round, and, we all had that trust in him, but it's all fallen apart. All fallen apart. Just a reminder, the poll that's running: do Rangers keep hold of Václav Černý next season? 85% of you say yes, 15% of you say no. Like I said, I'm more optimistic that happens now that we have the new ownership coming in. I think there will be more money to spend in the summer to bring players like Černý into the squad. I mean, my personal dream, and I know he gets injured, Seema, but it would be to have Seema on one wing, Václav Černý on the other wing, and Hamza through the middle. I think that will be a very potent attacking three to cause a lot of difficulties for that lot across the city and the rest of the Scottish Premier League next season. I mean, look, thinking ahead to Saturday's game, I mean, Barry, for me, I think has to stick with the three at the back. I think he's got to stick with the tried and tested. I think that's the best policy. I genuinely think that is the best policy for me, is going in there, sticking to what's worked, keeping it consistent, and maybe even throwing a little bit of a curveball into it a little bit to give Dundee something to think about. I think there'll be an expectation that we go with one up top, or there'll be an expectation that we do play the three at the back to some degree, but I think how we do that, I think, thank you so much, Bluebells. That's very, very kind of you. Bluebells with a live chat. Thank you to super chat. Sorry, £10. Cheers, and get yourself a well-deserved pint, mate. Thank you very much, Bluebells. Very kind of you. Very, very kind of you. But yeah, look, I think at the end of the day, you've got to look at it in terms of let's go out there and cause them a bit of trouble. Now, my lineup. This is my lineup for the game on Saturday. This is what I would go with if I was the Rangers manager. And some of you might look at this and you might say, thank God you're not the Rangers manager, Owen, because this is a shit lineup. So I would go, obviously, Jack Butland in goal. I think Jack, I think Jack is getting back to form now. He's looking back to his best now. So yeah, you've got to give him a bit of credit there. So Jack goes in goal. Back three, I would go with Sterling at right centre-back. I thought Sterling did very well at right centre-back against Celtic. I thought playing Sterling at right side centre-back actually enabled Tav to have quite a decent game against Celtic and gave Tav a bit more licence to get forward. Now, we all know, and you all know, that Tav's defence is shit, right? It's not great. But if you play him as a wing-back, he doesn't have to worry about defending as much, which to me, I think is positive. So I would go with Dujon there because I think Dujon covers well, gives Tav a little bit of security behind him. Obviously, John Souttar in the middle of the three. I think obviously John is the leader at the back, isn't he? He's the guy who organises it all. He's the guy who leads it all. So I would go with John Souttar in the middle of the three. And I'd give Nsiala a start, mainly because Balogun, I think, Balogun, it could be Balogun. I wouldn't go with Proper. I just don't think Proper is any good for the physicality, and there'll be a lot of physicality against Dundee. So I do feel that we need to go, I think Nsiala, absolutely. Midfield, I would go with a four-man midfield. Tav as right wing-back, Ridvan as left wing-back. Now, if you remember, before the international break, Hefte had a few personal issues that he needed to deal with, and the way that Barry was talking was very much that he wouldn't be back for a few weeks. And I also think Ridvan actually played really well in the Old Firm. So I would go with Ridvan at left wing back. The midfield two, for me, you've got to go with Raskin, who is just the man in form, the absolute dominator, the absolute leader. So for me, you've got to go with Nicholas Raskin in there. Dio, again, Dio started for the Ivory Coast the other day. His confidence is going to be absolutely through the roof. So for me, Dio starts alongside him. Put Cheney in the 10 role. And I know you're perhaps taking someone out of midfield there, but I don't think you need, when you've got three at the back, to go ultra defensive. You don't need a three-man packed midfield with Barron, Raskin and Dio. You can afford to be a bit more attacking against Dundee. They're not Celtic. They're not Borussia Dortmund. They're not Athletic Bilbao. They're not, they're not a great... we talk them up because they did well against Dundee United. We talk them up because we haven't done well against them the last couple of seasons. But it's Dundee, for God's sake. It's not exactly fucking Real Madrid, is it? Give Cheney that freedom again, to go left, to go right, to go middle. Give him a bit of freedom to cause a bit of trouble. And I'd go with two up top. And the reason I'd go with two up top, one bit of credit I will give Phil Clermont, and maybe he kind of just stumbled across it because he had no other choice. But play Danilo and Hamza up top. Again, Hamza is going to be absolutely sky-high confidence coming out of playing for Morocco during the week. And Danilo, you've got to start to give Danilo a game. I think we've got to start to see, is he fit again? Can he play again? What can we do with him? So for me, let's get Danilo playing. Let's get him playing on Saturday. That's my team. I don't think Barry will go with that. I think he'll start Dessers. I think he'll start Barron. I think he'll play with Cheney off Dessers. I don't think he'll go with that as attacking a lineup, with it being away from home at Dens Park. But I would go with an attacking lineup. I would take the game to them. It's only done. Fatal last words, isn't it? It's only Dundee. But you've got to have some confidence that Rangers can go there and get something. Guys, let me know your lineups. How would you play on Saturday? What would your starting lineups be? Let me know in the comments, please. Let's have a little look at some of the comments that we've got here. Aldo says, get paid next week. Stick a tenner on too, as enjoy your channel, and it's going. Thank you, Aldo. New owners want to keep Barry. Would you support that? Yeah, I would, mate. Look, I've got nothing against Barry Ferguson as manager. The only sort of John Bennett caveat that I'd put on that is if he stays, then Chirai needs to stay, McCann needs to stay, Dodds needs to stay, and McGregor needs to stay. You need to keep the management team together, because what has made this spell from Barry effective for me has been the fact that obviously that Chirai has obviously massive impact on the tactical side of it. He's very much a tactical side of it. Neil McCann's doing a lot of the coaching apparently. You need to keep those guys involved for me. So, I would definitely go in with that. Aldous is like Alexander-Arnold, shite defending, but okay going forward. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Trent Alexander-Arnold is very, very good going forward, but is absolutely shit at defending. Yeah, absolutely. I'm on the Barry and management train, says Bluebells. JN says, I'm currently on the board with Barry and then his team, see what happens. Danio's deadly in my FM 24. Yeah, absolutely. Football Manager 24. Yeah, I mean, look, in terms of the whole Barry situation, we've got to kind of assess it at the season's end. He's basically, if he wants the job, he's got a bit of an audition now until the end of the season. If he can go, to Dens Park, win there, win I think it's Hibernian next up after that, win that, do well in the Europa League. He's going to stand himself in really good stead going forward. And look, if we do get knocked out of the Europa League by Bilbao, then I hope people don't turn on him, because, look, realistically, Bilbao are a good side. They're a very good side. Morning, John. How you doing, buddy? Bluebell says, feel for Danny. His injuries have been contact injuries. There is a player there. There is a good player there. I've said that all along. His goals to games ratio is not actually that bad. It's not actually that bad at all. Singing the blues, the two up top makes sense to me. When we're flying through most games when we've done it. We look good. Bluebell says, is Trent not off the rail? Yes, he is, mate. Apparently, according to Fabrizio Romano, it's here we go. Done deal. Yeah, absolutely, Alder. That's what I was saying, mate. Trent Alexander-Arnold. Although I'd say that Trent is a hell of a lot better going forward than James Tavernier, to be perfectly honest with you. Having the fact that he's done it at international level, he's done it in the Champions League on a consistent basis. What else have we got there? Trent not? He is, yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I would go attacking on Saturday. I'd go after them. I'd try and, have a go at them. Look, the players, realistically, their confidence is going to be sky high after we've beat Celtic. We've gone through in the Europa League. There's a lot of players who are coming back from international duty, having done very well for their countries. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be going attacking. We shouldn't be going after Dundee. We shouldn't be having a real go at them. We really should be. I'm not showing them disrespect. I'm not saying that, but treating the game the way it should be treated. It's Rangers v Dundee, for God's sake. It really is. It's Rangers. It's Rangers Dundee. It's not Rangers Real Madrid. It's not Rangers Celtic. It's not Rangers Liverpool. Not Rangers Arsenal. It's not Rangers Bilbao. It's Rangers versus Dundee. And like I said, I'm not being disrespectful here, but we should be hammering them. We should be putting them to the sword, even at Dens Park. I want Danilo and Hamza up top, says JN. I mean, decent shout. I mean, like I said, I just want to see something. I just think as well, with Hamza and Danilo, you get a lot of movement there. You get a lot of movement, more pace, and Dundee are going to low block. They're going to make life as difficult as possible. They're going to sit in. They're going to put 10 men behind the ball. They're going to frustrate. And with Cheney, Hamza and Danilo, you get movement, fluidity. You'll get an interchange of positions. Danny can go out wide right. He can go wide left. He can drop back into the 10 role. Cheney can go right, can go left. Hamza can do that as well. It's moving the defenders around. And by moving the defenders around, you stand more chance of making space for Dio to run into, for Raskin to run into, for Ridvan to run into, for those players to push through and go on past the front three. So it's all about moving the defence around. And, against a low block, that's what you've got to do. You've got to find alternative ways to get past that low block. And like I said, Danny and Hamza, their movement's just better. Alder says, Raskin totally changed my views on him from last year to now. What are we players turning out to be? And I would sell that young player we got from Aberdeen. Forgot his name. You mean Barron? Connor Barron. I wouldn't sell Barron. I'd hang on to him for another couple of seasons. I think he'll be a player that gets even better with time, mate. I really do. I don't think he'll drop off. I think he will just get better with time. I mean, look, that's where we're up to, guys. That's where we're up to. Look, we are finally out of this goddamn international break. And I don't know about you, but like I said, I am very much relieved that we are out of this international break now. It's good that the international break is over. Positive for me that we can now get back to club football. It's all club football now until June. Obviously, the next internationals are in June after the season's finished, which is good news. So we can focus on these last few games and really looking at the situation and how it goes, and looking at the situation of these players, this manager, where we go. Bluebell says, love Raskin, but if he doesn't sign an extension the next few months, we need to punt him in the summer. Look, mate, that's what we were saying on the pod last night, weren't we? That Nico's out of contract in 2027. It's 2 years. 2 years is the optimum time to maximise your player value. As much as I want Raskin to stay, and I do want Raskin to stay, if he doesn't want to sign a new deal, then we've got to sell him. Absolutely. Barron has been great under Barry, though. He has. I think Barron's really come on well under Barry, and I think we've noticed, haven't we, in Dio, in Nico, in Connor, all the midfielders have got better under Barry. But when you've got a manager like Barry Ferguson, who has been there, seen that, done that, bought the t-shirt, in terms of being a midfielder, and he's certainly one of the top midfielders in Rangers history. You are going to learn from him, and you are going to get better from him. And I hope that Connor and Nico and Mo continue to learn from him. I really do. Mark says, Cheney is very good when teams play football like Celtic in Europe, but teams who sit in and make it frustrating for Cheney, then he's a waste of a shirt, just like Dio. I wouldn't agree with the Dio one. I think Dio does create space. He does turn away from players. And I think he is looking better now. And I think you'll see him get even better as the rest of the season goes on. So I wouldn't write Dio off too soon. Order says, yeah, glad the international break is over. I hate it. There's a lot of fans hate it. There's a lot of fans are bored to fucking tears by the international break. They really are. Glad to get back. It's no coincidence Barron and Dio and Raskin are flourishing under Barry, and that's only after a few weeks. Yeah, look, if you play for and with a manager like Barry Ferguson, a man who's been there, seen that, done that, then you're going to learn from him. Because the guy had a phenomenal range of passing, great tackling, read the game superbly, could play as a 6, could play as an 8. He's got all that knowledge to pass on. And the thing is, when you work with Nico and you work with Barrett and you work with Dio and you work with Connor, you're working with good footballers who, in defence of Barry's past record, when he was at Kielty Hearts, when he was at Alloa or at Ayr, wherever it was he was again, you're not working with the best footballers in the world. You're working with some pretty hammer-throwing crap who can't do what you want them to do. Whereas, with Barron and Dio and Raskin, they're very talented footballers, and they're going to get better by learning from a player like Barry, aren't they? Definitely. Mark says, Barron, only squad player, not good enough for 38 games to win our league. And you need those players, mate. You need those players. You need squad players. You can't have just all 11. You can't have 22 superstars, because it's just, unless you're Manchester City or Liverpool or Arsenal, and you've got the number of games they play down in England, it's not going to happen. And also paying the wages as well. We can't afford to have 22 top superstar players sat on our books, whereas the Premier League clubs can, because their budgets are massive. Even Conor Barron is taking extra lessons from Barry. When did that ever happen? Absolutely. They are learning from Barry, and the same way the wingers will learn from Neil McCann. Butland's picking up stuff from Alan McGregor. It's all positive, guys. It's good news, isn't it? And look, if Barry gets the job on a permanent basis, it will be different, and it will be a challenge for him. Of course it will. Of course it will. Because being a permanent manager is very different to being an interim manager. Barry with the passion and demands, working with those midfielders as well. McCann on the tactics, Dodds on the set pieces, box play, Shagger working with Super Jack Butland. The whole thing seems to be working. And don't forget Issam Charai, of course, the Moroccan assistant as well, Bluebells, obviously, who is having a major input into the team as well. And his achievements obviously are clear to see. He won the Under-23 World Cup with Morocco. He was the manager that got them to 3rd or 4th in the Summer Olympics. So give him credit for that. Even teams get prompted, if it's true, they get like 70 million. What, when they get promoted in the oh mate, the money in the Premier League is ridiculous. I mean, they call the playoff game the £100 million game, don't they? Because of the fact that you get so much money for being in the Premier League. And if you get relegated from the Premier League, you get something like £40 million the first season you get relegated. I think it's 20 the season after, and then 10 the season after that. Something like that. I don't know the exact numbers, but I know it's massive amounts of money. SPFL holding Rangers back. Changed my mind, lol. Aye, good shout, Owen. Yeah, look, that's where it is, mate. That's where we're up to. Look, that is it for this morning, guys. Got a few things I need to take care of. Thank you for watching the morning pod, guys. I think it is time to get excited. I think it's time that we move forward. And, you know, as I said last night, I couldn't give a monkeys what they say across the city. You know, they can say whatever they want. And I'll be honest with you. You know what's really funny? Cheney and Raskin have been getting so much praise for their international performances, and all you see from them on social media is, yeah, but what have they won? They're not going to win anything this season, blah, 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 blah. Yet, Hatate and Kyogo and Maida played for Japan during the week. Has anyone commented on it from Rangers? No. Has anyone said anything? No. Because we don't care. The meltdown is hilarious. They just can't take any of our players getting any praise. It's hilarious. Mark says, Dio is brilliant when teams open up. Luxury player to watch, but think Tide Parks don't suit. Dio plus players who kick you about the park. I disagree, mate. I disagree on that. If you look at how Dio plays, I think he is underrated. Yes, there is a live stream on Saturday, mate. Yes, there will be. They are sweating. Don't let them fool you. It's always only a matter of time. I think they are. They are starting to panic. They are starting to panic. And it's quite funny. It is quite funny. Right, guys. Thank you for watching this morning. As always, on the way out, please like, comment, and subscribe. And obviously share as well. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you as always. Please remember, never forget, we are the people.
Thank you.